The Myth of Primitivism, edited by Susan Hiller, is structured into 4 parts. Hiller aims to provide some continuity to the collection through her editor's introductions, yet the book as a whole remains highly fragmented. By design, the reader does not emerge with a cohesive historical or cultural methodology for understanding primitivism in art history or actual artworks. Hiller deliberately adopts this methodological stance, emphasizing a rejection of an authoritative perspective on primitivism, in favor of a more complex, fragmented evocation that challenges the supposed universality perpetuated by European modernism. The concept of discourse is central to Hiller's contributions and several other essays in the collection, particularly the one on women and primitivism by Disa Filippi and Anna Howells. The essays argue that when ethnographic art signifies difference and opposition, it functions as a sign with pre-established meanings, adopting an essentially idealist method that does not deeply engage with the origins of ideologies surrounding the exotic and the primitive. Notably, many of these essays express an anti-materialist and anti-Marxist perspective. Rashid Arian criticizes classical Marxism for supposedly neglecting issues of racism, but the lack of specific examples weakens this argument. Hiller's statement that white artists should not attempt to address racial oppression on behalf of oppressed groups raises questions about who has the agency to articulate and protest against oppression. Hiller further argues that art and science can contribute different methods to understand primitivism, positing art as intuitive and science as its opposite. This ideological position justifies the juxtaposition of diverse positions and methods among contributors, reflecting Hiller's personal background. While some essays, like Jill Lloyd's piece on Emil Nold, take an academic approach, those by artists, especially black artists, convey a palpable anger and a polemical tone. Due to Hiller's structuralist approach, this book lacks a cohesive method for understanding primitivism as an ideology intertwined with colonialism and later imperialism, with its contradictory and uneven manifestations. The absence of an exploration into how primitivism could simultaneously embody both oppression and a liberating challenge to the official art world beliefs of imperialist nations, such as European modernism's admiration of black art, leaves the encounter with the primitive solely depicted as a negative process. While Rashid Arian briefly touches on this, and Jill Lloyd's essay offers a partial exception, Lloyd largely ignores the intriguing issue of Emil Nold's celebratory images of primitivism, juxtaposed with his later membership in the Nazi Party. Lloyd concentrates on an earlier period of Nold's work, and presents a peculiar reading of German expressionism, as not belonging to modernism, thus able to engage with the struggles and debates between conservative and modernist factions in early 20th century Germany. Kenneth Coutts Smith's essay, positioned as a general overview of cultural colonialism, reflects the views of British Stalinism in 1976. Unfortunately, it lacks depth, fails to grapple with real contradictions, and is riddled with ahistorical modernist misreadings. For instance, Coutts Smith describes Delacroix as the inaugurator of pure painting, and makes questionable claims about China's cultural policies as a model. While the essay is dated and the author deceased, its serious problems raise questions about its inclusion. In contrast, Annie Coombs' essay, Ethnography and the Formation of National and Cultural Identities, stands out as one of the most interesting and well-documented contributions. It is clear, relates historical issues to the present situation in Britain, and deviates from Hiller's advocated method, but produces a valuable contribution. The essay on Primitivism and Women by Disa Filippi and Anna Howells disappoints, given the importance of the topic. The piece is replete with references to discourse theory, Foucault, Baudrillard, etc., viewing primitivism and related artworks in relation to women, primarily as constructs of pre-existing discourses and languages, rather than being shaped by material factors. The authors emphasize the power of language to represent because it has a grammar, diverting attention from the material foundations of primitivism. According to Filippi and Howells, colonial discourse shapes our perception of black women, but their essay lacks insight into how one might challenge this discourse or dismantle its material foundations. They criticize a 1975 article by Caroline Ifike-Mola, accusing her of perpetuating essentialist notions of sexual difference, while researching the struggles of Nigerian women against colonial powers. This example seems somewhat unfair, given that Ifike-Mola, as a feminist anthropologist, aimed to highlight women's struggles at a time when the prevailing trend in anthropological research did not prioritize such issues. It is important to consider the historical context of Ifike-Mola's article and acknowledge its positive contributions, rather than dismissing it outright.